This week started off at my family's house, and aside from getting to do some work on the camper, I also got a chance to do some sewing. That was nice. Sewed together some storage bags, and one thing which will come into play in the future. I'll keep that a surprise. I went to the Miami Circle this week. It wasn't as good as I was expecting. I was expecting there to be some actual ruins, but it was more just a nice park. With that said, it was nice to walk around, and I got to see, all the very fancy vehicles and high rises and matching yachts out in Miami, so that was interesting. After that, went to Coral Castle, an amazing place where this guy back in the early 1900s carved out all these giant stones and pulled them out of the ground and made this castle. And he's got all sorts of weirdly shaped tables and chairs, rocking chairs, statues. Very cool. He's got a giant swivel door on hinges which weighs God knows how many pounds. But it's mounted on a truck axle, so it could be spun. And he even built a giant tower where he could sight in the North Star. So very cool. Guy did all this by hand. I don't think he had any sort of power tools at all. And it was a very cool spot. After that, went to the Everglades, stayed there for a few days, and we got to do some hikes and some drives. Unfortunately, most of the hikes aren't dog-friendly, so we didn't get to do any serious hikes, but we did get to walk around and see beautiful views, drive around, and see the amazing park. Interesting thing about the Everglades, I was expecting a swamp, and it's actually not. It's characterized by the water actually flowing, even though it's very slow. So it's a whole bunch of grasslands, and there's little islands where the land is higher and drier, where trees grow. So you've got these little islands of trees spread throughout. It was very beautiful. And of course, the weather has been absolutely perfect all week. We're talking 80s and sunny. I absolutely love it. Another thing we saw in the Everglades was a Nike missile base. It's a base where they used to store these missiles to defend the U.S. Pretty cool. They've got some of the old structures out there and some decommissioned missiles to look at. What I loved is they had a whole kennel and a whole bunch of dogs to help patrol the area. And that was cool to see. And of course, this week ended with Christmas. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. And interestingly, this year, the first night of Hanukkah was on Christmas Day, which is very odd. Hanukkah's usually earlier on, early December, maybe mid-December. So it's an odd one this year. It's going to go all the way into the new year before Hanukkah's over. Anyway, for those who don't know, the way the Jewish calendar works is it has lunar months, but the year is a solar year. And in order to make that jive, because obviously that doesn't just work out naturally, you had to do leap years. And so there's some weird number of like 7 out of 19 years there's a leap year. And on a leap year, in order to keep the months full lunar months, on a leap year they add an entire month. But of course, not very good at coming up with creative names, because when there is a leap year, you have the month of Adar, and then Adar 2. They didn't have a new month name. They just have a second one. Anyway, more about Hanukkah next week. I'll tell you guys more if anybody's interested. They can stick around and listen to that.